Communication training with Stan O'Connor.
I'd like to begin talking about our feedback techniques for the week. Our first technique is going to be a feedback technique that we can use to get honest feedback from people, because you know how many people don't really give us the feedback that we're looking for when we're looking for honest feedback. Sometimes when we give people things that we've done, whether it's a project we've worked on, or maybe it's an outfit we're wearing, and we ask someone, what do you think? What we're looking for is simply positive feedback, something to kind of make us feel better about it. However, when we're looking for honest feedback and we want some people to tell us, what can we do to make this better? What can I do to make this better? Many times it's difficult to get an honest response from people because they want to be nice to us, or they like us and they see us in a certain light, and they see everything that we do as wonderful. So this week, our first technique for getting honest feedback from people to get to really the truth of what they really think is called the Feedback Fissure. The Feedback Fissure is a simple 3-step process that you can use when you want to get honest, constructive feedback from somebody so that whatever you're asking them about, you can make it even better. So let's say that we are at work, and let's say that I'm at work, and I give Charlie, my coworker, a report that I've been working on that I want to deliver to my boss. And I say, hey, Charlie, what do you think about this report? Charlie, chances are, if we're friends especially, is going to say to me something along the lines of, well, I think it looks great. And most people who say things such as, I think it looks great, say it because either they like us, and that's how they really see it, because they like us, or they don't want to hurt our feelings, or they just don't want to take the time to give us the feedback that we're looking for. So what you want to do when you're looking for honest feedback is to simply follow these 3 steps. Step number 1, ask for the feedback. For example, hey, Charlie, I just finished this report. Before I turn it into my boss, would you mind taking a look at it and tell me what you think? And chances are, whoever you give it to, most often, these people are going to say things such as, well, I think it looks great. I think it looks fine. I think you did a good job. Then you want to move along to step 2 and thank them. Now, that sounds simple to say, thanks, Charlie. However, what I'm doing is I'm allowing him to give me the feedback that he thinks I wanted to hear. I'm honoring what he says, I'm validating what he said, and I'm allowing him to say it. Then I'm going to move along to step 3. And step 3 is to ask a what would it take question. For example, if you're thinking on your toes and you really can't think of anything else, you can always use the standard phrase, well, thanks, Charlie. Tell me, what do you think it would take to make it even better? Or let's say that I'm, showing an outfit to somebody and I say, hey, what do you think of this outfit? I'm going to a wedding tonight. And they were to say, I think it looks great. I could always say, thanks, tell me, what do you think would make this outfit even better? You can always use that phrase. However, I'm going to give you a special tip for when it comes to step 3 of the Feedback Fissure. And step 3 is you want to ask specific adjective-based questions. For example, instead of, what do you think it would take to make it even better? Or how could I make this even better? What does better mean to you? More compelling to the person who's going to read it? More persuasive? More sexy, if you're talking about an outfit maybe? Or for example, let's say you baked a cake. What do you think it would take to make it even tastier? So you want to think about exactly what you're trying to improve. Are you trying to improve how persuasive whatever you're doing is? Are you trying to improve how attractive it makes you look? Are you trying to improve the taste of it? If you can, think on your feet and think quickly and come up with a specific adjective. What would it take to make it even more compelling, even tastier, even sexier, whatever it may be? Do that. Because what you'll notice is once you, step number 1, ask for the feedback, then step number 2, say thank you and allow somebody to give you the feedback they think you want to hear, and then move along to step 3 and ask a what would it take to make it even blank, even better question, and you're specific about it. Because you've allowed someone to give you that feedback, watch how they'll stop for a moment, especially if you say specific adjective-based questions, such as what would it take to make it even tastier. Watch how people will stop and think, okay, well, I've already said what I had to say, and they accepted it. So, if you put some blankety blank in it, I think it would be even better. If you added some salt, I think that would make it even tastier. I think that if you separated these numbers into specific columns and maybe used some pie charts, that would make this even more compelling. Or, I think if you maybe, raised that and lowered that, that'd make you even sexier. Whatever it is, you'll notice that if you use that three-step process, you will get the feedback you're looking for when you're looking for it. But I'm warning you, you really want to make sure that you are in the position to accept the feedback. So if you are just looking for some support, some moral support, don't use this process, because when you use the feedback fissure, you will get the feedback that you're looking for. While we're on the subject of feedback, I'm going to give you a process that you can use to deliver feedback that might be not necessarily well received under normal circumstances in an effective, positive way that increases the likelihood that the person to whom you're speaking is going to receive this feedback in a positive way. Are you ready? These are the 4 steps that you can use to deliver positive feedback. Well, it's just feedback, but it's going to be received in a more positive way. Step number 1. You want to find what you like about what they did, and that is your job as a savvy communicator, to find at least one thing that you like. And you're going to talk about that thing first, and you're going to directly connect it with that person. So for example, if somebody handed me a report to check out, let's say that Charlie's giving me a report, the first thing I want to do is talk about what I like, and I'm going to start the sentence with that thing, and I'm going to use the word you or your right away. For example, your attention to detail when you're talking about the history of the company is fantastic. You can tell how much work you put in there. So right away, I'm going to say something about what you did. Your focus on yada, yada, yada comes through immediately, and you can tell that you are really an expert in this topic. Whatever it may be, start out with saying your da, 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 the way you did yada, 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 and start off that way. That's step number 1. Step number 2 is to, when you're giving the criticism now, because I've given this something that I like, I'm going to change the you to I or we, me or my. I'm going to stop talking about you now and start talking about me. And I can phrase it this way. It's been my experience, however, that if I present reports like this in a pie chart way rather than a linear chart way, the way you have it presented here, I found that I get better results doing that. Or I found that when I discuss the history of the company, the more I talk about the history of the employees, the better it is received by the person to whom I'm presenting it. Or I have found that when I do XYZ that you're doing now, I get better results when I yada, yada, yada. So when you're giving what you think could be improved upon, that's when you stop talking about them, start talking about you, and start talking about what you have experienced in the past when you've done things like this. And during that, step number 3, talk about what you have found, what I have found. For example, let's say that I'm simply giving somebody some feedback on their behavior in a meeting. Let's say that I thought that they were unprofessional. I might say to them something such as, Charlie, your adherence to schedules really impresses me. The way you are always on time, you never leave early, and you always know where you're supposed to be and when. That could be step number 1. Now I'm going to get to the behavior that I didn't like. However, in today's meeting, I noticed that the criticisms that were delivered were not buttressed with any positive suggestions. Now I'm going to go to step 3. I have found that when I deliver any type of criticism during a meeting, especially in a public forum, I found that it's always best received when I offer a solution to whatever it is that I'm criticizing. So that's what I mean. You want to do step number 1, you're really great at this. Step number 2, however, I noticed that this XYZ isn't necessarily the best. And step number 3, I have found that when I do XYZ, I get better results. And then we're all done, so we're going to move on to step number 4, which is addressing the benefit of him or her doing whatever it is that you're suggesting. I think that way you'll have a much better chance of getting your proposal received. I think that way you'll have a much better chance in future meetings of people receiving your ideas well and possibly seeing some of your suggestions implemented. I think that if you do XYZ, you're going to get XYZ. So therefore, what you want to do is when you're giving feedback, break it down like this. Step number 1, you do XYZ great. Step number 2, however, I noticed that this is, instead of you, this is missing, that wasn't done so well. Step number 3, And I have found that in the past, yada, yada, yada. Then step number 4, so that you will get what you're looking for. Capiche? And if you go through those 4 steps, even if it's, for example, my mom comes out and she's getting dressed for a party, I could always say to her something like, Mom, you look beautiful when you wear those types of clothes. I love the way you're showing your legs because they're the best legs I think I've ever seen in my life. That said, I think that those colors that you're wearing right now don't necessarily work for most skin tones in a candlelit environment such as the one you're going to be in tonight. I found that in the past, for example, when I wear things like that, I tend to look like a zombie. Therefore, I think that if you wore maybe something that is like your black satin shirt with the rest of that outfit, I think you'll grab the attention of not only your spouse, but probably most of the men in the room, if I had to guess. And that is how you give positive feedback that is well received. Just follow those 4 steps and you're golden.